I make that 7:30. So we are going to make a start and say well done for being with us right from the very beginning. Welcome to our third in this series of Haven webinars. So we are going to be looking at this topic of sleep this evening, and sleep problems, sleep issues, and how we can get past those. We're going to be looking at some practical things, but we're also going to be delving into sleep and understanding a bit more what's going on, which will help us to make the right decisions, hopefully. So if you've not been along before and we've not met, my name is Claire Banham. I'm the founder of The Haven. And I guess my relationship with sleep is reasonably good. I do struggle in terms of I wake up at night and I can't always get back to sleep. But I've over the years learned some tricks, and some of those I'll be sharing with you later on how to do that. But also I love sleep. I actually genuinely love sleeping, and I used to be able to say that I could sleep for England, because when I had chronic fatigue when I was younger, I could sleep for, well, easily for 20 hours a day. So yeah, sleep is something I love. Sleep is good. And you'll have noticed that the lovely Jez couldn't be with us tonight, and so I have the great delight to introduce you to Lauren. Lauren is going to be co-hosting with me today. Lauren is she is 17. She is studying A-levels in Harpenden, and she is one of the first, sort of the original Haven participants in one of our first local support groups. Oh, and she's also my daughter, which you may well have noticed by now, because it can't really get away from it. Welcome, Lauren.
Thank you. As you can tell, I am not Jez, but yeah, it's great to be co-hosting with you today. And my relationship with sleep is, well, I think like most teenagers, I enjoy sleeping. I can sleep until quite late on in the day, as I'm sure Claire will confirm. But I also, a lot of the time, struggle to get to sleep. And that's something that can be a bit of a cause of anxiety for me.
Yeah, great. So we're going to be talking a bit more about that and the relationship between sleep and anxiety later on as well. Fantastic. And then, so we're going to think now about what is so important about sleep. Let's get underneath the kind of the surface of sleep and find out what is going on there. We're obviously, because of its Haven, we want to look at the relationship between anxiety and mental health issues and sleep, but mostly because in the Haven groups and the courses that we run, such a high proportion of our participants share with us that they have issues over sleep. We know that a really high percentage of teenagers say that they either struggle to get to sleep or struggle with getting back to sleep if they wake up. And so we wanted to meet the need, really, not because we think it's the panacea for all evils to do with mental health, but because we hope it could be really useful. And there are some links between mental health and sleep, but we know it's not going to be the cure-all for everybody, but it is really good to look at. So tonight we're going to be looking at why sleep is so vital, how we transition well into sleep. We're going to share some top tips, and we're going to look at what's stopping us from making the changes that we perhaps already know, some of the stuff that actually would help us, but actually there's sort of something in us that is quite resistant to that. And we're going to do, we've got some practical exercises to help us do that, and we're going to signpost to some other resources. So sleep and why it is so vital. We, I don't know if you know this, but the male lion can sleep between 18 and 20 hours a day. So the lion, the male lion especially, the female lion doesn't sleep quite so much because she's the one busy doing the work. But we're not as expert sleepers probably as a lion, but if, in terms of the sleeping lions, I kind of sometimes think that teenagers are a bit like sleeping lions. You know, you go into their den when they're asleep at your peril. Let's have a look at what is happening when we do go to sleep. So you may well know that the difference between there's two main kind of phases, if you like, and then there's some stages within those phases, and the different phases are REM and non-REM. So NREM stands for non-REM, and REM is rapid eye movement sleep. Now, if you've ever watched anybody when they're sleeping, you'll know that for a majority of the time, there's quite a bit of action going on. There's sort of some snuffling and some moving, and that is when we are in the non-REM stage. And for the majority of the night, we will be in those stages going up and down. But REM sleep is really critical, because that's when it's called rapid eye movement, because if you ever see somebody doing it, you can see underneath their eyes, I don't know if I can do this, their eyes move really quickly backwards and forwards underneath their closed eyelids. But they'll also be very, very still, almost like paralyzed, or their muscles deeply, deeply relaxed and heavy. The rest of the time, they're sort of more twitching and things going on. And a majority of our dreaming happens in REM sleep, and they think that there's all sorts of things going on in terms of the housekeeping of the brain, which we'll talk about later, that happens during that critical phase. The other phase, is divided up into 3 stages. Stage 1 is that transition period between wakefulness and sleep, and that is very quick. It lasts about 5 to 10 minutes, and you may not even know that you've been asleep if you're in that. So if somebody was woken up in this first stage, then you may not even recognize that you've been to sleep. But if you've ever had that sensation of falling and jerking awake, or if you've ever had that sort of really weird lucid dreaming where you're not quite sure if you are awake or asleep. Lauren, I know that this is one of this stage is something that you're are really aware of, aren't you?
Yes, so for me, I've previously experienced sleep paralysis, which, if you don't know what that is, that's where you feel as if you're awake but unable to move, and that occurs in this first stage of non-rapid eye movement sleep. And for me, that's been something that can cause anxiety surrounding sleep, because when you know that you are susceptible to being in this experience, which isn't fun and can be quite scary, it can kind of alter the way you look at sleep. And so for me, that has caused some anxiety in the past, and if you experience anything like that, can be something that puts you off wanting to go to sleep.
Excellent, thank you. Well, it's not excellent actually at all, is it? It's really not much fun.
No.
So stage 2 is that when the body is starting to slow down, the body rate temperature drops, the heart rate drops, and everything just starts to kind of slow right down. And that's about 20 minutes. And then stage 3, the muscles relax and the breathing starts to really, you know the difference. If you've ever shared a room with somebody, the way that they breathe will change throughout the night. And when you're going into stage 3, that's when you start to get that really kind of slow and steady breathing. And actually, that is when they say the deepest sleep occurs. So there's all sorts of things going on when we sleep, and lots of it is really necessary to have a really healthy brain. So why? Well, it's to do with, a lot of it is to do with plasticity, the plasticity of the brain. Now, because what they say is that during sleep, there's a lot of sort of housekeeping going on. So it helps us to, when we sleep well, we're in the different stages of sleep, it helps us to sort out our memories and to transition memories from short-term memory into long-term memory. But it also keeps our brain this kind of a little bit more dynamic, I suppose is another word for it, the brain plasticity. And that is particularly important for us when we're thinking about anxiety, because if you were with us in our last couple of webinars, you'll know that we talked about the fear, fight, flight, freeze syndrome. And that is when, because we're in an emergency state, we're sending a lot of our focus, of our brain activity into the limbic system so that we can do these instant reactions. But when we want to reduce our anxiety, we need to make a conscious effort to move the energy back into our prefrontal cortex, our more logical and rational part of our brain. The better our brain plasticity, the easier it will be for us to consciously or to take steps to just transfer that energy back into the more relaxed state of being. So that is why sleep is one of the reasons why sleep is so important for us when we are prone to anxiety. There are a couple of things that help us to sleep or govern our sleep reflexes, if you like, are the way that our body and our mind work together to make sure that we do sleep. And you may well have heard of this, I really struggle with this word, circadian rhythm. And this is how our brain takes in messages such as including light levels, deduces whether it's day or night time, and whether or not it's day or night it will then produce the right amount of the hormone melatonin. And melatonin, can't get my words actually, melatonin helps us to get into sleep. So as the light level drops, our body, our circadian rhythm thinks, it's nighttime, it's time for us to sleep, produces more melatonin, and that helps us then to relax and our mind to slow down and our body to relax and us to go transition into sleep. And likewise, as the light levels go up, the idea is that then the body knows to reduce the levels of melatonin so that we wake up. Now, that's one of the reasons why actually our light levels in our bedrooms is so critical. And if you've got a bedroom where the curtains let in a lot of light, you might want to think about doing something about that. And likewise, in the morning, to try and kickstart your system. Lauren is smirking because she knows what I'm going to say now.
Yeah.
What am I going to say?
She's going to say, open your curtains.
Yeah, open your curtains. Let the light in.
That's Mum's favourite thing to do, to wake me up in the morning. Just walk in and go, good morning. And then I really, really appreciate that in the morning. But it does work.
It could be a saucepan and a spoon, for goodness sake. I think I'm doing
But that wouldn't, something to do with melatonin, that wouldn't stop the production of melatonin. So
no, exactly. So you're getting off lightly.
Thank you.
The other thing that our minds and our bodies use in order to govern our sleep reflexes are the sleep drive. And the sleep drive is actually genetic. Scientists have proven, used on some fruit flies, apparently, unsuspecting fruit flies, that there is a gene that governs our sleep drive. And that tells us when we are meant to be awake and when we're meant to be going to sleep. Now, that all sounds fantastic, but we know that especially for young people, sleep is not easy, and there are some very good reasons for that we will come on to. But right now we thought we would do some practice. Now I'm going to do this in faith that I'm not going to send you all to sleep, because that would not be good for the first part of a webinar, but I want to help you to demonstrate a really simple and easy to do relaxation technique that you can help if you are either struggling to get to sleep or if you wake up in the night and you want to get back to sleep. But it's also something that you can use during the day, that if you're anxious, you can use this as a way to just relax body and mind and allow yourself to your anxiety to just reduce down. So for this, I need you to sit very comfortably, ideally with your feet firmly on the floor or legs uncrossed and in a nice kind of relaxed position. So if you are lying down, you could do that, but just allow yourself to be supported wherever you are and relax. And the first thing we're going to do, and this is something you can do when you're lying in bed at night, is we're going to do a very quick body scan and just focus our conscious effort on relaxing all our muscles. Because without knowing it, we will pick up and carry around with us tension throughout the day in our bodies. So I'm going to ask you to close your eyes if you feel comfortable doing that, or if not, just pick a spot in the distance and allow your focus just to gaze on that sort of without seeing it, if you like. And now I want you to imagine that there is a lovely warm light. And that warm light is almost like a scanner, and it's going to pass down through our bodies. And as we pass down through our bodies, we're going to make a real effort to relax those muscles. So here we go. So let's imagine that that warm light is passing down through our heads, and it first of all to our faces. Now our faces do a lot of work, so let's just make sure that all the muscles, especially the muscles of our jaw, are relaxed and nice and calm. Carrying on down through our neck, just making sure, focusing on those muscles in your neck and making sure they're relaxed, and carrying on down into our shoulders. Now that's a classic area where we store our stress, so just might want to give them a little bit of a movement just to let them go heavy and relaxed. Let's pass the light down our arms and the tops of our arms and through our elbows and down through our arms all the way down to our hands, and just relax those fingers. You might want to give them a little shake or just allow them to be very heavy and relax down. Now the light is going to go back through our chest area, down through our stomachs. And just as you take a nice deep breath, allow that diaphragm to relax. That's going to carry on down through our sitting bones, allow those to be very heavy and relaxed. You can feel whatever it is that you're sitting on or lying on, relaxing down into that, allowing your legs to be very heavy and relaxed. Down through our knees, down our lower legs to our ankles and all the way to our feet. Wriggle our toes and just allow them to relax. And so you allow that warm scan to relax through your body, visualizing it going down through your body, from the top of your head to the tips of your toes, and allowing all the large and small muscles of your body to relax. And now we're going to do a technique that allows you to mimic sleep, and the process of going to sleep. We're going to open and close our eyes in a particular way. So if you've got your eyes closed, I'd like you to open them for a moment and to choose a point that you can gaze at. Now ideally this would be somewhere where you have to raise the level of your eyes, because that little bit of muscle strain will really help your eyes to feel heavy and relaxed. So just gaze up somewhere high, and as you keep fixed on that point, I want you to notice 3 other things you can see in your peripheral vision without moving your eyes. So for me, I can see curtains, I can see lights, I can see a table. So just list those 3 things to yourself. And now close your eyes again and just say to yourself, and I am deeply relaxed. You might take some nice deep breaths as you say, I am deeply relaxed. And you'd repeat that to yourself 3 times. Now I want you to open your eyes again, still staring at the same point. And I want you to listen for 3 things that you can hear. Perhaps one of them is the sound of my voice. I can hear a ticking clock. I can hear voices in the background. List those things to yourself. Close your eyes and say to yourself, and now I am deeply relaxed. As you take 3 nice deep breaths, say that to yourself 3 times. And now the last time, you're not going to open your eyes, but you're going to imagine you are still gazing at that point you've been looking at. But now without opening your eyes, you're going to list 3 things you can feel. I can feel my shoes, my sandals beneath my feet. I can feel the chair I'm sitting on. I can feel the arm of the chair under my hands. So list the 3 things that you can feel. And now you're going to say, I am deeply relaxed to yourself 3 times while taking 3 lovely, even deep breaths. And now you can open your eyes and feel the benefit of that relaxation, feel a little bit refreshed and hopefully awake. But hopefully you can see that that is not a complicated exercise. It's simply relaxing the muscles through your body, and then almost making an inventory of things that you can see, things that you can hear, and things that you can feel. a bit like the exercise we did with Jez on our first webinar. But running those two things together helps to simulate the process of going to sleep. So that's something that you can do when you're at that point of trying to actually lie down and go to sleep. But how easy is that, I wonder? So I am going to stop sharing the screen, and we're going to ask you now, what do you feel your relationship with sleep is? How do you feel how do you notice that you've been sleeping badly? Or do you feel that you struggle in particular ways, and why is that? So we'd love to know on the chat what your experience with sleep is, what you think is the issues that you face, or even how you know that how is it that other people know if you've had a bad night's sleep. So it'd be really good to hear your experience. Please do use the chat facility, and we would love to know what you've been going through. Lauren, while people are thinking about what to pop in the chat, I know that we talked to some Haven users recently about sleep. What did they have to say?
So a couple of people got back to us saying that so on Instagram we did a poll, it was yesterday, and we asked if people felt that they struggled more with getting to sleep or staying asleep and not being able to get back to sleep after waking up. So someone told us that they struggled most with option B, which was waking up in the middle of the night and not being able to get back to sleep. They said that they struggle to have a constant sleep because they don't have a set way that they prepare for bed. And so I think that's something we're going to come on to in a minute, and then they go on their phone, and then that makes them overthink and stuff, and so for them it's struggling to stay asleep. But someone else said that they struggle with getting to sleep, and when they do, they have bad nightmares, which I think sort of relates to what I was saying about sleep paralysis, in that if you have a bad experience with sleep, being that something you don't want to happen happens to you while you are asleep, then often that can stop you from getting to sleep so easily.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We've had something from on the chat from someone who's watching tonight. I don't feel as good as if I have had a good night's sleep. So if they've struggled to get to sleep or they've had a bad night's sleep, they don't feel as good. But they also feel as if they've wasted the day by not waking up early. So that's that sense, isn't there, that we like to be able to sleep, and we like to be able to sleep in if we feel the need. But then there's that sense of, I've missed something.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And
someone said that they struggle to get sleep and stay asleep. Yeah, so both.
That's a double whammy, isn't it?
Yeah. I think that obviously if sleep is something that you struggle with and you struggle with both, then that probably comes hand in hand a little bit.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, so we're going to look now at some of the things that will help us to transition well into sleep, so prepare ourselves well to sleep, so that we're not expecting ourselves to just go from 0 to 60, so like, right, that's it, I'm lying down and now I'm asleep. That's perhaps not realistic, especially in the teenage years. So we are going to look at some of that now. So I love this image. It's the kind of archetypal image of sleep, isn't it? A baby sleeping. But as somebody said, if someone says they sleep like a baby, they usually don't have one, because actually
my bad.
Babies are not great at sleep. That's not something that, well, a lot of babies aren't. And actually parents have to train their babies and then their toddlers and then their children to sleep. There are rituals that we do with children to help them recognize that this is now we're going from waking to going to sleep. And actually, when we get to the teenage years, unfortunately, our brain capacity changes, or our brain when it's in development, it changes. And that means that actually for a lot of teenagers that their sleep phase delays. So they go from being wanting to, so the natural sort of the kind of when you're a child and when you're adult, that sleep phase that we looked at, the sleep drive, kicks in at around 9 o'clock at night. But for teenagers, it seems to slip at least 2 hours. And so that's kind of nature working against you, because unfortunately school, college, whatever else is going on doesn't also slip by 2 hours. So you're getting less sleep that you need. And contrary to some teenagers' belief, actually teenagers need more sleep than your average adults. They need 8 to 10 hours sleep at least. So there's some real kind of sleep deprivation going on just because teenagers are having to conform to the rest of society. Now, that's one thing that lockdown may well have helped with, but unfortunately, that's not always going to be the case, is it? Now, this is Arianna Huffington, and she is the founder of the Huffington Post, and she has been on a bit of a one-woman mission to help rethink sleep. And she wrote a book called The Sleep Revolution. She has some really interesting things to say because she thinks there's a bit of a myth or a kind of I think going around that really efficient people, really successful people, they only sleep 4 hours a night. And she said, actually, it's not true. And if you want to be on the top of your game, if you want to be successful in life, you need to learn how to sleep well, because that is actually going to mean that you can perform at the best of your abilities. She said, exhaustion is a sign of chaos and is not a badge of honour. And so often we kind of compete, don't we, as to, oh, I had a really bad night's sleep. Oh, no, I had a worse night's sleep. Like it's something that we get points for. So how do we transition well into sleep? Well, it's really about setting ourselves the time and the space to get a good routine going. Now, there are some best options for sleep routine, but they're not set in stone and they will differ from person to person. So you may want to take some time to reflect on your day, to journal if that's something that you like doing, that to just quieten everything down, maybe have music on, but have it quietly rather than kind of full on thrash metal. I am a great believer in thankfulness being part of my sleep routine. I try and make that part of my sleep routine, taking a moment to be grateful. It's so good for our mental and emotional well-being. But also you could choose to do something that you really love. Maybe if you're creative and you like drawing, then something like that allows your brain to still, while still doing something creative, would be really good news. To read. Now, if you're reading, ideally, probably a real physical book or a Kindle that is where you've got the light levels set low and not getting that blue light of screens. Maybe doing a bit of preparation for tomorrow. All sorts of things that you can do. But the idea with this is that you find a kind of 4 or 5 maybe key things that are going to be part of your sleep routine and you stick to them. But Arianna Huffington says, don't try and do it all at once. If you are starting to build up a screen routine, it's like you are an athlete and you're preparing. So you need to just introduce one thing and start with that, 1 or 2 things and start with that, and then build it up. Because actually, if you try and do full on hour of different sleep preparation, it probably it'll feel like a straitjacket rather than a comfy pair of pajamas to put on. She also says that investing in great nightwear is never a bad thing to put your money on. She says she's a great believer in really good pajamas. So anyway, having a sleep routine is it's really critical to sending that, helping your sleep drive to notice that you are transitioning from being awake to being to sleep. And actually, if you have slipped into your natural sleep rhythms, have kind of delayed because you're a teenager, or you've just got into the habit of going to bed later and later, don't try and bring it back all at once, but kind of do it in stages. So get a sleep rhythm working where you're sort of naturally going to sleep, and then bring it forward by half an hour, and then bring it forward again by another half an hour. So just try and do it in easy stages so that you're not a big shock to the system. Now, there are things that you can do during the day that will help you get good sleep. And it's not, it's things that we probably already are aware of. So I've been talking to people about the fact that at the beginning of lockdown, we were all so good about making the most of our time to go out and exercise, take walks and get exercise, because it felt like we had to do that because that was our one opportunity. And now that lockdown is easing, we're actually doing it less and less again. So if you are struggling to sleep, you might want to think, what are your exercise regime? Are you actually physically tired? And that will be a big help. What's your diet love? Are you showing that you love yourself through the fact that you give yourself good kind of things to eat? Because that will also be helpful. Not filling yourself full of caffeine and energy drinks. So if you do drink coffee, tea, or energy drinks, then try to do that earlier in the day. Perhaps set a kind of, most experts suggest that 4 o'clock is the kind of cutoff point for caffeine. Now, this one's a little bit trickier. And Lauren, I don't know what you think about this, is that how you show a really clear distinction between work areas and sleep areas. So the experts say that really when you go through the door of your bedroom, you should be able to turn off completely and just be focused on going to sleep. But for a lot of teenagers, that's not possible, is it? Because that's your work zone as well.
Yeah, I mean, so a lot of us have desks in our bedroom that we work in throughout the day, but I think that for me, something that I've noticed, and I think that Mum is going to laugh at this because she's always telling me not to do it, and that's working actually in my bed. I know that if I do spend the day working in my bed, so on my laptop in my bed, or reading emails in my bed, or writing something in while I'm sitting in bed, then that kind of further moves away from having a distinction between the place where you sleep and the place where you work. So if you do have to work in your room, which a lot of us do, make sure that you spend time outside of your room doing things like exercise, or make sure you're eating outside of your room at parts of the day, just so that you have that distinction of parts of this is where I sleep, and you're not always in there.
Yeah, in fact, we just moved around Lauren's bedroom, so she has a separate chair for reading and working and things, so that she can not use her bed for that. She just now has to get and have it for dinner.
Wow, just been atted by my mother.
So what are also the other kind of, I suppose, the elephant in the room? Young people and phones and technology. I know that it's something that you are digital natives, and it's something that you've grown up with, and now there is a sort of interconnectedness between young people and their phones. And for a lot of people, if their phone is taken away from them, that actually raises their anxiety levels. But we have to understand, and we have to be honest with ourselves, that if we use our phone and technology, then that will be a barrier to getting to sleep. And most experts are clear that ideally you have 1 or 2 hours of screen-free, blue light-free time before we try to get to sleep. I know that's not easy. But I love this quote again from Arianna Huffington. She says, if we were to treat ourselves as well as we treat our smartphones, we'd make sure we could sleep until we're fully recharged. So I want you to think quite honestly to yourself tonight. If you want to go to sleep, then actually putting good habits in place for phones, making sure the phone is away, turned off, out of sight, ideally out of your bedroom when you're preparing to go to sleep, that will give you the best possible odds of a good night's sleep. But I do recognise that is slightly going against the grain, and will take a real effort for a lot of you, a lot of us, and it takes effort for me as well. But is it worth it? Is it worth making the sacrifices? Is it worth doing the things that we know will help us to sleep? Is it worth stopping doing the things that will make sleep harder for us? What if I was to tell you that the scientists had come up with a revolutionary new discovery? And this discovery gave you a much better health and a longer life. It helped enhance your memory, made you more creative, made you look more beautiful and more radiant, was helping with food and weight loss and weight management, would help with preventing and protecting us from devastating illnesses, or even just those niggly things like colds and flu. But what if I said it was proven to help you be happier, to be less depressed and less anxious? That kind of revolutionary new discovery, I think, would be highly in demand. But of course, it's just sleep. That is what the scientists have proven, that sleep enables us to do or helps us with. So actually, hopefully when you just look at it in black and white of what good sleep can help you with, then I think that it might help us to really make the changes that we need to make. However, I recognise that change is hard. And actually, somehow, why is it that bad habits are really easy to pick up and hard to break, and good habits are really difficult to get in place and really easy to let go of? If I knew that, I could probably make a fortune. But change, we recognise, is difficult. So in order to help us with change, what we're going to do is we're going to just ask ourselves a series of questions. So it's not a visualization technique as such, it's not a relaxation exercise, but what I would like you to do is I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and I want you to imagine that we're in a conversation, and I want you to answer these questions in your head as if I'm asking them right to you right now in your room. But because this is going on in your head, you need to be totally honest with yourself. Okay. So enabling us to do this, I want you to first of all turn your head to face the left of the room. So turn your face to face the left of the room. Okay. And as you're facing the left of the room, I want you to remember a time when you've had a really bad night's sleep, or sleep has been super difficult for you. Now, can you remember how that felt? What words would you use to describe how that felt? Can you remember a time when you felt exhausted in the day and all you wanted to do was crawl back into bed? How did that feel? Okay. Now I want you to come back to looking at me, and now you're going to face the other way. Now I want you to remember a time when you have had a great night's sleep and you really felt the benefit of sleep. Now, if you can't actually remember this, you might want to imagine it. So feel what it would be like to wake up naturally, feeling deliciously relaxed and refreshed, and those muscles kind of heavy but calm, and our heads, our minds feeling light and peaceful and ready for the day. How does that feel? Now face front again. So my question to you is, what will you choose to do to make that second situation a reality? What will you choose to put in place so that you get better sleep? What will you choose to stop doing to give yourself the best possible odds of healthy sleep? What will you sacrifice, give up, or stop doing? Who will be your best ally, your support in this? How will you ask for help? So what's your first step? And what are you going to do tonight to make it a better night for sleep? Well done. Excellent. Good thinking. Okay. So I wonder if you've got top tips. I wonder if you've got things that you know help you get to sleep. Things that that maybe have worked for you in the past, maybe they've stopped working for you for now, but they might be just the thing that somebody else needs to know. So perhaps you could pop that in the chat, and we can, whilst I'm doing that, I'm going to share with you some other things that I think might help.
For me, I think that when I'm struggling to get to sleep, I have a sleep routine that I sometimes go through before I get into bed. But if I've been awake for a couple of hours, sometimes I'll get up, I'll move around a little bit, I'll do a bit of stretching, and then I'll do that routine again to get it back into my head that this is time to sleep now.
Yeah. Now, shameless plug, really, but the Haven YouTube channel, and you can find that the easiest way to find that is putting in the Haven Mental Buoyancy. Great word. Hard to spell, but it's a quite a unique word, so it helps show us up. So Haven Mental Buoyancy, have a look, and in there is actually a whole range of audio tracks, including one that's on deep relaxation for sleep. So that has been recorded especially for you, so if you can play that as you're going to sleep, or if you wake up at night, you can play it for yourself. Remember to turn off auto, what's the thing where you get the next one up on YouTube? Autoplay. You need to remember to turn that off, because sometimes there can be really jarring things that come up if you don't do that, and you're nicely asleep. So have a look at that.
As well as on the YouTube channel, if you found the body scan really useful, Jez has done a video on body scan, which isn't specifically for sleep, but if you found that technique useful and you want to practice that again, that video is there for you to use.
Excellent, thank you. There's also our Haven Instagram account, but don't be
get it right.
At Haven Resilience. Look at that.
There we go. She did it.
But don't be looking at that before going to bed. The other things that you might find. Let's have Lauren. You can read through some of the things that we've got people coming up with.
Someone's just put in something that I think is really common actually, and that's having anxiety about not being able to get to sleep, and having that. So when we were looking to the left, thinking about what the day's like if you can't sleep, if you're lying awake thinking, I can't get to sleep, this is what the day is going to be like if I can't, then that can make you more anxious and less likely to get to sleep, as well as things like watching the clock. Sometimes I lie there in bed and think, if I get to sleep now, I'll have 5 hours of sleep. If I get to sleep now, I'll have 4 hours of sleep. And that doesn't help anyone get to sleep.
No, in fact, some people say even, turn your clock around so you can't see the time. Yeah, I think that's a really good idea. Someone has suggested playing a word game before bed, which drains the brain.
Yeah.
Good idea. I like that one. I haven't come across that one before. And someone was reiterating what we said about beds and the use of bed. So I had advice not to use my bed for anything other than sleep, even to read in a different room. It was hard to do, but it worked for me. Well done for pushing through. I think, look, we say this a lot in the Haven. We practice on the good days, so it works on the bad.
Yeah.
But with sleep routines, actually, it may take some time to retrain your brain. It may take a good couple of weeks for that sleep routine to start making a difference, but it is worth persevering with. It is worth pushing through, because eventually what you're doing is just training your brain to reintroduce your sleep drive at the right time, and it's definitely worth it. And someone was saying that you have to try really hard not to be dwelling when you're awake, not dwelling on how dreadful the next day will be if you don't get enough sleep. So actually, that's where thankfulness can come in really well as well, because rather than you can reframe, rather than dwelling on how dreadful the next day will be if you don't get enough sleep, actually coming back to being the things that you're thankful for the day you've just had. And maybe just thinking through then what would help to make it a good day tomorrow. Then you'll know that even if you haven't had enough sleep, then you've already had a little bit of a heads up on that.
Just one last thing, I think that flipping it is really useful, to have those positive ideas of what will happen tomorrow if you do get some good sleep, but obviously not putting pressure on yourself. But I also think that because as teenagers our brains are less developed in our prefrontal cortex, we're less able to take what's happening right now and apply it to what will happen in the future. Reminding yourself of those positive things can be really helpful and quite a meditative way to get to sleep, because sometimes we have a tendency to not associate what's happening right now with the future.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Right, Oh, and I wanted to share with you two really useful things that I found useful. One that I've only just come across in my research for tonight is the website for the Sleep Council. So if you just Google the Sleep Council, it is a UK organisation that is dedicated to helping people sleep better, and it's got tons of resources. And if you search within their website for teenage advice, there's some great case studies on different sleep issues and some possible solutions. So that is definitely worth finding out more about. The other thing that is a little known fact, but if I don't know if you've come across Audible, the Amazon company that does audiobooks, they have free sleep tracks. So free downloads that are designed to help you get to sleep, including, now I'm going to get this wrong, it's one of the Jonas Brothers. Which of the name of the Jonas brother?
Joe, Nick,
Frankie? I think it's Nick, but don't quote me on that. But anyway, one of the Jonas Brothers has done an audiobook all about the delights or the science of the baseball swing. So if that sounds really boring to you, then that's the idea. It's a slow read. So there are these slow books that are designed to be read in such a way as they're not actually that interesting and are designed to put us to sleep. But there's other things on there as well. I think P. Diddy does some kind of meditations and things. There's all sorts there, and they're free. So that is definitely worth a look. We are coming into land. Is there anything else that you wanted to share particularly about sleep, Lauren, that I have missed out? No.
I think just to reiterate the idea of having a positive mindset when it comes to sleep and not putting pressure on yourself or blaming yourself if you can't get to sleep, but just having a positive mindset in terms of being able to use sleep for positive.
Yeah, and actually, do you know what? We human beings are amazingly resilient. And we can cope. If we get 2 or 3 nights bad sleep, it's actually not going to make a big difference to us. It's when we slip into kind of weeks of bad sleep that can be an issue for performance. But actually 1 or 2 nights bad sleep actually will not make that much difference. And therefore we can just sort of relax a bit and not get so worked up about it, because that will, as soon as we start to get anxious, we start producing the stress hormones, and that will not be in our favour.
Yeah, and just knowing that it is possible to make a change.
I really hope and pray that actually on the basis of some of the information you've had tonight, or if you go away and look at some of those other things that we've been talking about, then you will see a real change and a change for the better to your sleep patterns. So to end, we are going to say the Haven Prayer. Now, the Haven is a Christian organisation, but it's absolutely open to everybody of all faiths and none. But we do, at the Haven, we do try and practice what we preach, and we believe that meditation and prayer is really good for us, mind, body and soul. And so every Haven session ends with the Haven Prayer that helps us to just calm and relax and center ourselves and acknowledge that actually it's okay to ask for help. And for Christians, we ask the higher power we see as Jesus and God to help us, but we maybe just want to use this time, this last couple of minutes, for relaxation, and that in itself is a very good thing indeed as well. So Lauren, you are going to finish us with the Haven Prayer, please.
Loving God, please grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. In the days and the weeks and the months ahead, grant me the gift of peace, real peace in the depths of my being, a peace that goes beyond my understanding, and help me to find ways to build a lasting calm into my life. Amen.
Amen. Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And we look forward to running some more webinars after the summer. it would be really interesting. I think what we'll do is on our Instagram channel, we might run some polls of what you guys think would be a good webinar topics to run, and then we're really aware that actually life is throwing us some real challenging issues at the moment, and we want to be able to support you guys. Don't forget that there's all sorts of resources on our YouTube channel, and you can always message us via Instagram as well. Okay, so Lauren, thank you so much for being my co-host tonight.
No worries, thank you for having me.
Really appreciate it. And guys, we look forward to seeing you again very soon. God bless, take care, and we hope you have a great summer and a very restful and sleeping one as well. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.